Hi friends, it's Morgan with Compass Rose Astrology, and today we are going to talk about the Scorpio Sun Sign. And this is in honor of the beginning of Scorpio season this month. So this is a bit of a breakdown of what the sign of Scorpio actually means in traditional astrology, how you can see it expressed in people and in the season of this zodiac sign, and I'll go through all the kind of like details about the modality, the element, and different aspects of the sign that comes from traditional astrology that maybe you might not have considered before, and other kind of ways that you can see Scorpio in like modern news and stuff like that as well. Just some examples to kind of bring it down to a more relatable level, because sometimes these signs are super symbolic and it gets a little confusing sometimes to be able to understand the really depths and like differences between these signs, you know? So if you're interested in learning about what it's like to have a Scorpio sun, keep watching. The Scorpio zodiac sign is typically from around October 21st to November 21st. It can vary on a couple of those days, like from October 22nd to November 23rd, stuff like that. It depends on when the sun actually moves into the sign. Scorpio is considered a feminine sign. It is a water element. The modality is fixed. The sign of the Scorpio is the Scorpion. It is the temple of Mars, and it's Venus's exile. In the tarot deck, the card represented by Scorpio is the Death card, and the colors represented by Scorpio are dark red, maroon, and black. So Scorpio is the sign that follows the first third of the autumnal season. So Scorpio, as a fixed sign, it sits right in the center of the darkest season, because autumn, if you think about it, that's when darkness reigns, and on the winter solstice that's when light starts to come back. And so if you think about seasons and thirds, we start off fall with Libra, where darkness just begins to come in and we're just starting to incorporate the darkness with the light. And then right in the center we have Scorpio, which is the darkest of the dark, right? It's the most fixed part of autumn. It's when death and decay happens. And then we move into Sagittarius at the end of autumn, in which darkness is constant, but it is also the merging and kind of melding. It's the dual-bodied sign that incorporates winter and fall. So if we think about Scorpio, that is the most darkest part of the season. So shadow and night has come, leaves are falling, and the world has turned from light and it stepped directly into the season of death. Darkness reigns as daylight grows shorter here. So if we think about it, Scorpio sits heartily in the most kind of solid darkness of the year, and it also sinks into those hidden areas of life and death. And in autumn, everything is falling apart. There is chaos in how life switches from all those like vibrant oranges and reds and into kind of decay. And that is definitely the most symbolic part of Scorpio. Scorpio symbolizes the acceptance and the comfort and kind of, actually, I don't know if I would even say comfort, but the just being with the dark side of life and death. It's the acceptance and it's the being. There was a story in the news recently about how a black hole just unexpectedly spit out a star that it had previously absorbed. And in my opinion, Scorpio really is like that and embraces the chaos of the black holes that just consume and take and destroy. But also they can surprise you. They provide rebirth. And kind of in the theme of rebirth, Scorpio also symbolizes the depths of the soul, which is, you know, the only thing that is consistent, right? We have birth, death, and then rebirth. There is nothing nearly as pure or as immeasurable and unknowable as the soul. It is you. The soul is you. But in such a way that you can't like describe it or quantify it. And Scorpio really embodies and embraces these depths of unknowing. They are not afraid of the discomfort that kind of comes with change and not knowing the future. I really feel like that Scorpio is the one sign that can sit with that without having to be told how to. Like they just naturally accept and see those changes coming because they know that like on a really instinctual kind of basic level that is what life is about. Scorpio is really the only sign that allows for that impermanence of life. People born within this sign, they find comfort in truth. They're the least surface level people in the zodiac, in my opinion. And anything superficial is not worth their time. And they won't put any time or effort into anything that it just isn't real. And that kind of goes hand in hand with their desire for truth. They will take the hard truths. They don't want to hear any sort of like sugarcoating white lies. Like they want the truth even if it hurts. In terms of relationships, Scorpios are kind of stereotypically known as some of the most like sexual and intense partners, and they really look for depth of soulness with their partner through the most like kind of transcendent experiences, which is why I think they are considered some of the most like sexually intense partners. Finding kind of pleasure and joy and this divine connection, this like soul connection for them, it's so important for Scorpios. Having a sexual connection with their partner is an actual expression of who they are and it's what they need. But they're also very, very particular in who they expose kind of these deepest, darkest parts of themselves to. They understand that not everyone can ride the current like they can. They understand that some people are afraid of the dark and they just can't take those aspects of reality or themselves, which is kind of like a little sad, which can also like lead towards that also the other stereotype that Scorpios can be kind of like sad and dark and all alone. But they understand, they know that not everyone can connect on the level that they need. And so they go to the extent and the extremes that they need to go in order to find a partner that they know can connect with them on that level. So they don't open up to just anybody. They're really particular. They might have flings and stuff because they do love sexual connection, but they don't allow a connection if they don't feel like it's genuine. Scorpios are also old souls. They've experienced so much just in their, if you believe in past lives, they've just experienced so much. And it's really hard to impress them on kind of like a surface level. They also understand things very, very intimately and deeply. So it's just hard to kind of like impress them on a surface level for sure. Scorpios are really deeply in touch with their feelings due to being a water sign. But when out of balance, they can sometimes appear really defensive and possessive. They really despise being out of control of their own life and their own time. If you can, like, I think of Scorpios as a current. Like, they're just, like, really deep. They're under the water. They are incontainable. If you try to put a current, like a water current, like, in a box, like it just goes away. Like you can't contain them and it's just a part of their nature. And if anyone tries to force them into a box or force them into any sort of obligation, they're just going to be met with that super harsh scorpion sting. And like most water signs, they deal in kind of detachment and sometimes neglect. I don't think they're as prone towards guilt as other water signs can be. Like Cancer really lays on the guilt trip sometimes when they're a little unbalanced. And Pisces can tend to get really sensitive and like depressed when they're unbalanced as well. I feel like Scorpio when they wield that scorpion stinger, it's not to be like a prolonged, drawn out like event. It's just supposed to make you hurt, and then they're like, whatever, okay, I'm done. That's the detachment and neglect, you know? Like, kind of like how, doesn't a scorpion stinger actually detach when they sting? Yeah, I think they do. I think sometimes the stinger can come off, and that, I feel like that's very Scorpio, where like, okay, I'm gonna, like, this is it. We're done after this. And that kind of cold detachment doesn't like sit well with a lot of zodiac signs, but that's just how Scorpio can sometimes end things. They are also probably a little more balanced than Libras. Shh. Like, don't tell your Libra friends. But it's, in my opinion, just, it's because they aren't afraid of kind of the darker sides, and they're also way more in control of their feelings and their boundaries because they are a water sign, which Libra is like terrible at. So in terms of their following sign, Sagittarius, Scorpio is also super a nerd in like the instinctual and soulful side of humanity, but whereas Sagittarius is focused on kind of the wisdom and philosophical side of our souls and being here on earth, and Scorpio is way more interested in actually being a part of it. And I think instead of actually analyzing it or like trying to find a deeper meaning to it, Scorpio just like lives for depth and intensity and darkness and anarchy, and they understand that their soul is their own. But I think on a really deep level, they kind of follow the collective unconscious to find remaining answers that they might not be able to find within themselves. And I think that kind of brings them to even darker and deeper levels of understanding and wisdom that many other signs could never even access. So I hope that this video finds you well and maybe taught you something a little bit about the Scorpio in your life, and maybe even about yourself if you feel like, if you do have a lot of like Scorpio placements. And yeah, so let me know what you think, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.